people get the one you see?
Yeah.
I'm good.
We'll do it.
I have it. I'm good. I'll see you.
Good.
Sorry, one second. Okay.
Did you think when you said yes that on my way pulled up open about what would stain your fingers by herring butter squid seal must the teeth fingers in the throat, then 22 techno words first habit of imagination the produce of transparency has digital perspective the stroke agent 30 national face ski the technology manufactures for aggression programs also Asian sense that the program measures against as true engineers no progressive future technology of America's living only because technology is a master the extension of the Asian one of the mechanized integration short semantics my fantasy is considered for the Asian fabric soul purpose to fill my fantasy is Asian fabric is a protection of white American characters of Asian is look the human directly in the eye imagine it is someone you care deeply for imagine is turning his gaze you try to tell yourself you're covered in a smooth skin a face you can trust smile even as you sense it try not to blurt out monster that subject exists in direct contradiction these Asian is defined as machinic and social 122 the compulsion to repeat knowledge reflects representation of the cyber force performs cyberbody the language of also should be software however the communication never exerted for performance objectifications on the objects of cyber one of the racial gender others against which the liberal human subjects define cyberbotics songs and moments language theory what takes civil words comes sounds language function the type words replace emphasis on review for losing edge pursuit drives development the language transforms into the cyber school of force protection challenging the modern disappointed wanting more other construction that depend on bifurcation while subject the backwards object the conversation the other subject connected to the objectification the demarcation human and other the liberal notion of the universality blurred the self-coordinating psychic bonds George 20 claims universality law and psychic bonds laws of poverty rights speaking nature stand voice then gets internalized as normal with devastating effects psychic bonds are recently liberation self manifest losing faith in one's own experimental laws with the rest of my life the degradation being divided into self that's self through dividing the self psychic bonds into the positive realization and determining minor subject that this is started from lived experiences intellectual poverty replicates techno-orientalist tropes of Chinese robotic system the positioning when economists us for STEM reifies the Asian inferiority of the Chinese are only capable of replication and depth as mechanized Asian seeking undermining the pure core boy 20 reorientation economic activity towards these and towards the framing of the East passage quality copy racial idea of the robotics encouraging the tech culture defined by Asian interest confliction to also others racial creation the leaders mechanized beings as penetration of Asian and philosophical practices global actors are racial refashion Asian robot figure the orientalism shit on essentials of reflecting the logic casting which force of recognition Asian opportunity the fierceization by an unknown oriental state China appears the most extreme antiquity the American white lives as Chinese workers is the copy of the Asian house production the manufacturers placing US companies who generally producing the patents and rights China reverse the rights machines compared to transportable many human origins as instruments for impediments pockets racial stations we can become copying human creativity so vertical integration IP regime imposing against foreign activation universal common knowledge and copycats only makes knockout size the factor of actually China the word of robotic factory workers uncreated less human always already mechanized there are many programming languages use whichever you prefer but stick to your syntax will be muddled must there be machete banana slug slush copy or gorgeous slop bucket use it against you it is yours to make saying 22 language emphasize fallibility language functions as a result of small limitation meaning its course combines in the racial cyber the language glitch the hermeneutics one solely meaning based creation text and division the machine must interpret the machine languages hierarchical languages listen and objectification of liberation the cyber's words are repetitive and aggressive goal double unexpected absence determining that cyber to a glass cage voice becomes a method which is internet as human the reminiscent holding speech language so where this resistance gives cyber self-recognition the practice of communication after collapse of the English language when pre-security is corroded resolved the United States federal government should significantly strengthen its protection of domestic and intellectual property rights and copyright patents and or trademarks so affirmative disabling the disorientation of Chinese linguistics that's a form of play that deconstructs the human non-human binary the one seeking incoherency disrupts assimilation to generate new features animated by the beauty of Chinese life Stanford 23 challenges much of human machine like having cosmic figures that living form engaging with technology poems all the time refusing credit forms technological elements D from Mel's language as purely anti-perception that enact balance with machine and coding technology vision color based cyber the standard square brackets present possibilities based rules represent only one option for the D from Mel's language and fear and alienation loading the times of escape within order social are used for breakdown of linguistic boundaries of that challenge of Jody English the code embracing disruption of English as rebelling against assimilation linguistic possibilities the hybridization of the English and devices dialogue personally to natives the each word is comprehensible the combination of voice covering meaning invocations of whiteism marine persistence of racial languages empowering utterances by writing the main comprehensible alliance of subverse techno whiteism the contesting sort of stereotypes casting face attack transits of the cyber logic to transmute utterances into poetry of how giving a set of body tools to express can they think animal language use some enterprise can machines can they claw a tooth fair an aphorism and after young the imagine future for Kyoko jumble words of phrases does not sound with the power relation narrative self and after avoided when meaning absence of individual oracles has a effective order return dimension cannot be sensed interface with the embodiment sexuality expressions where any civil made possible to promoting imagination tropes cause to capacity servants how living humanness and capacity human economy for sensing somebody activities resistant to corporation approaches circus approach imagined otherwise disruption of the social order considerably also of political performance signal social quality of much and very Asian American life as a white aspiration the solid future of equity compared to zero glitches that one glimpses alternative orientation the differences is remember all humans are cyborgs all cyborgs are sharp shards tag rack to be delicate as you approach this subject all humans are ready to call themselves glass to last guys pissing the bed remember they love their blood even as they reject the smell of embrace the multiplicity of the cyber proliferates solidity and if all days flock of such as to forge captive relationality external the subsequent naturalization of hierarchy. What's 24 Embracing multiplicity lines and demarcations by the human effort technology cyber defies conversation should set values of identity and provides a tool for questioning patterns, force upon groups, problems, participation. For the boundaries imposed highlights of language, gender, expectation, and non-essential nature of both expected behavior to allow others to treat them to master English and behaves in American cyber. It's time to reconcile the names alien monster with who they believe themselves to be. The identity formation highlights force of way these goes written bodies feel creating female value. English real pleasure cyber recognize multiplicity cyber politics as resistance to combination. Immense province race of motivation modes of being human, regression thought of vulnerability to our relationship with non-human. We are shaped by everything. The coding defines distinct tools and mark the world that mark them as other stories of space. Our dual systems of identities to human communication trends dominating perfectly central dogma of logos centers and dependent on the little humanist view of the body. So sorry for the delay, I didn't get that. I'm scattered, strewn, wires, cross lost. In transcription, pardon any errors. Please excuse what's skewed, what didn't keep me with signals. Got stuck, I'm in switch, I'm in screwed. I'll do my dancing in the ring. Code 22 unblooded. To dance in the ring, conventionally wrestling with incorporated small sheets and lead spaces of to excessively kind of like to dance much laugh to like the significance of affect as strives for even a solid copy. Split off from a house study with which it coexists and activate assets are inactive on the disembodied master collectivity. It is finally excised from this model performance and life giving capacities are urgent engagement of all enjoy. These centralized borders must be carried a split of affect are fused performance transform institution spaces the spaces of engagement and aesthetic reconfiguration economy that make the economy more humane and shift what counts as noble and knowledge and who is allowed to produce it. The assumption that equity and procedure is possible or creates a deal clash do an intelligible argument that universalizable across teams into fiction and social context. The form of procedure cannot be separated from content. Like the language and culture are related to food field language of native speakers. Our language makes us think in a certain way. Chinese people not able to get rid of the Chinese one using English and English for rhyming English not is an alien cultural thing. Common manner that native speakers they still could ridiculous Chinese American world rules. Breathe in personal relationships and rules for everyone assume to produce fair decisions. To imagine people who have the first call try to speak the language of their second and understand the values sound like real English. What they understand. Intellectual poverty is alien. Han 17 Chinese thought creates tangible constellations to quantitate Semitic grace that gives Chinese law no fixed position and changes down to circumstantial potential. Inherent rather than set the rules remains the same. Quantities used in the Chinese concept by key and copy of the humans history course are actually radically different from the Western conception. Scenario planning is a form of disembodiment that facilitates temporal control and mastery, reducing agent to an object of white star. Then 22, time dissected to repetition, temporality understood as technology and technical intelligence, temporal solution. In other words, white supremacy, crime to future function as dehumanization, sound East Asia. The peripheral temporality against which the present landscape is defined, past future are associated with disembodiment. Reality spirits not the body with a dream, existence from the physical is pleasure, promise. Rather cybernetic creatures facilitate transcendence of the mind, mastering of his body, finding binary. Further, techno-orientalist project the station time defines whether it disembodiment issues are reliable depends on the white male techno-orientalist. Cyberspace promises pleasure to transcending the physical, defining its cyber exotic is one of extreme pleasure and horror as an object of desire. The confinement to imprinted features illustrative of techno-western future is this embodiment bodies no longer hers representations of conceptual loss of liberty over narrative only roles available or diabolical. Neologisms a priori semiotic only asks disruption at the level of the symbolics of time simulation. Brief of 15. The economy is based on semiotic production qualities or science. Language must zeros of accumulation decreasing the field of expansion discovered in the world market expansion influence on one imitation supporting experience division of text pave the door for simulation of natural worlds invading experience semiotic inflation of Roman contention breaking the link between the sign and the reference tablet cultural spaces marked by codes not belonging capitalist frenzy started in cultural conditions proliferating simulation with semiotic inflation their return facilitates state addiction and destroys possibility for resistance. 17. Investments on ordering that relies on the state addiction is technology that renders efforts dependent. States are analysis segment addicts to a certain notion dependent on the state for expression, then engagement dominance are dependent on the state's production. State's memory becomes their own.
So, the poems throughout the 1AC are a form of cyber poetics that sorry, I'm trying to explain the act to you and see if it's correct. How exactly is it disruptive?
Yeah, so the poetry in the 1AC, we read the Stanford card and the Welch card. It says that the process of poetry, specifically in NAFRA, i.e. the incoherence of cyber poetics is good because it breaks language's boundary drawing between who's human and non-human.
What determines its incoherence? Is it the spaces, the brackets?
Well, no, it's like displaying moments of language's failure when text means nothing. It's exploded into disarray and just has no meaning.
So, yeah, so it means, what card was that? Stanford card?
Stanford, Welch, I think Young, 24.
Got it. The Han card, how exactly does Quan prove that IP is alien?
So the Han card says that there's radical differences between the Chinese concept of intellectual property and more Western, like legal forms. So the Han card says that Chinese people perceive IP as not a fixed, static notion that can be enshrined in text. Rather, it's a form of practices that are constantly in flux, and how it's about how Chinese people relate to it.
Sorry, what was the last part?
Yeah, it's about the card says it quote adapts to circumstances rather than rules that remain the same, and then it's radically different from the Western conception because it's more relational instead of legal.
So it's about, okay. Well, that makes sense to me. So Chinese people can use it as a form, viewed as like something that is still usable,
Yeah.
something they can adapt.
Yeah, they can
Okay,
use.
understood. The George card, the stuff about, this is just a link.
George?
What
Oh, yeah.
what's the
so
utility of this card?
this impacts out like the uniqueness claim of the 1AC. It says that like each interposition is non-given. The George card said that this separation between like mind and body causes dissociation. It like makes people stop believing in their own experimental knowledge and causes things like depression, anxiety, things like that.
Is there in-round violence?
Not right now.
Okay.
Like we've claimed offense in debate that we solve. Like, but
Right.
like
The-
in this
the
round
us
you
versus
haven't
them
like, you haven't
paradox.
done violence against us. That's
Yeah, I understand that. That's good.
Penalties based on 2 then plus 2. Yep. Let me know when I'm ready.
I just got it.
Same, I'm good.
Ken, are you good?
It's still scanning, hold on.
I'm good. Last you good?
Yeah.
Keta? Intellectuals in the midst of genocide have an obligation to center Palestine in their efforts to affirm a starting point perpetuates colonial, imperial, and racist brutality. It also turns the case Gales 24. Stop presenting more Palestinian journalists reporting from the current genocide within the past. President images of Gaza instead of addressing Gaza literally colonization movement. Genocide happening now in Palestine. Q&A and tally about the theoretical question about the role of intellectuals in the midst of genocide. While theoretical questions test to our work as scholars, we have the risk of compromising our stance on the colonial period, racist brutality. They become a security blanket for private those unwilling actions in the academy. They will completely see as a witness to body being the children with time for academic scholarship. See, add nuance, but the fact what we're witnessing is even more complicated. Who is it refused to utter the word of Palestine is a responsibility to Gaza and Palestine. The colonial racism is not relegated to academic and historic shape by the daily life of academic influence course in the science of the movement. Things exist for them shrugged in our shoulders, pulling away collective action and ongoing path of colonialism. Preserves to decompose who we are has our backs. This is just how we operate in conscious, not a metaphorical conscious, but a material relationship of active and practice responsibility to Palestine, intellectuals, historians, settlers, humans on soul, and even within the area of research and study. The events of years, decades, centuries from now, what is meant to be different. I choose not a complicated vote neg to reject the act of decision not to send to Palestine, even though our responses are unnecessary, limited. It's morally unacceptable to remain silent in this moment, centering Palestine. It's an academic responsibility they should lose for not doing it. Slaughter 24. Feeling hopes that the army to use feeling uses the possible support Palestinian far from the instructions generally little, nevertheless the governments are orchestrating but there's only do different high hypocritic or inadequate one to just see after the Adam's agenda do the deep depth of grief suffering and indescribable do of course we have any ability to mitigate the suffering. Not really have done anything entirely powerful enough. Important sector information happens and teachers research cannot be affected their own communication which are not for genocide capitalism. Cameras don't exist we do not say we are not affected by what happens there. Predicting that life can simply continue norms, moral crisis to China or do one and following. Defend Palestine, defend Palestine, colleagues, boycott the people from Gaza and organize and demonstration, direct action, teach Palestine, stop any customer civilization on the genocide, speak and listen, and next up. The stupidity came. When I say speech, it was immediately absorbed by communicative capital regardless of its content. The one that asks critique is more than just content extracting exchange from our value. As new fetal subjects, D24, the network towards media impacts communication, hence conscious communication, where the fragment understanding of the term automating communicative capitalization from this finally exchange of items, content unimportant, and just more content communicative capitalism, otherwise, critique conditioning possibility and sending of content every testing by dimensional intention, nuances not take long to. The affective infrastructure community capitalism no commodities share meaning everything is equally significant. We get overloaded by pervasive feeling insecurity affecting networks of community capitalism more conducive to near-feudal and emancipatory egalitarian revolution. Average US markets and powers in the US serve the imagine a possibility of negotiating on beyond they cannot catastrophe near-feudal capitalist exploitation is holder of their supposed setting a negotiating equal roaming input war in Israel. The actual presentation of the critical scholarship as a position to be affirmed is rooted in productivist pedagogy that is refined by information capitalism content, but their critique is paradoxically absorbed in in order to strengthen imperialism, colonialism, and capitalist exploitation, passion, 422. The learning of fundamental movement, ignorance and knowledge, and knowledge, ignorance, learning how to reach out to psychoproductive because stupidity cannot be educated on past, and there's beyond measure or many inarticulate databases to store knowledge, no technology quantifies stupidity, but it also forms a word class refusal, no confusion, no call on, no declaration what to be done, refuse to articulate programs in capitalism, be accommodate, even understand one content and configuration of information to for visibility, transmission, rights, such as the exploitation, disposition, rich over against physical colonialism and capitalist exploitation worldwide contribute to generate stupidity and ecology. The alternative stupidity vote neg for reasons we prefer not to articulate, and might or might not change the way we are thinking and continue to think about it. But we don't hold us to that. We might forget as we move on and thinking about it, moving to something else that might not even be a reason at all. Oh, that reminds me something I was wondering to think about anyways. Affordance guide Docu 22. New knowledge is something valuable. We'd like to offer the stupidity as an ontological weapon that measure resistant calculation, reduce stupidity, totally resist all the substantive measure of finance and this forms of subjectivity and antagonism, neoliberalism, over the unexpected offers, revolution, capture the competent stupidity becomes and reserve and defection to excess surplus, driving capitalism, insofar as they have known and measurable to create system remaining within system, whatever investment will be taken in capitalist system, without knowledge to reduce the cartooning or actual calculation, change value, use value, stupidity, short circuit system, stupidity, intermediacy, the chronically stupidity, incapacity, actually articulate. Devotional cause stupidity, permanent absurdity, therefore uses financial capital, unlawful form of chapters of the kingdom, closes super, reduces common stupidity as networks, spatial relations, remains resilient, determined, opaque, and interests of justice, liberation, vitality, case. Chinese essentialism with the discourse of racialized Chineseness are rooted in false homogenization that the races and versions of experiences and Chinese disaffirmation in 22. The Chinese populace in Southeast Asia highlights the complete relationship of race nations and post-colonial nations to East Asian countries such as Japan and China. The tradition of modern nation state was accompanied by strongly racialized conception of people as found feeling into belonging to a British modern nation, maybe the looks of blood like affecting position between nations being raised in the idea that it happens to China belong to the Han races taking for granted which are different than Southeast Asian countries with a composite nation has emerged out of Western colonialism and centuries of integration and migration to Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and subsequent coherent nations acting out of multiple races, in particular this more Chinese Singaporeans and Chinese. I just have never been allowed to forget their Chinese government has sought to reinforce the racialized identity as Chinese Singaporeans are renowned. This time majority of the racialized identity does not overlap with the national epitomizing fundamental tension between race and nations. To divide the Chinese is more complex. We have to often not just constitute Chinese, but very fractured where Chinese and race and Chinese is a very flexible signifying contest with people different in different ways. Not based on collective racial identification, based on productive localizing identification of value by diversity races living together, hybrids, multiracial nations, such as demonstrates how the people Chinese not only is capable of getting relations identification, not co-opted with the racial other with multiracial co-national faction with the idea of unitary Chinese race points and around the race of Chinese. This was the Chinese subject is multiple shifting that could have identification where flexibility, racial homogenization, cultural essentialism, 70s, tyrannical dichotomization that racist difference denies common humanity. That takes out turns the case in Neo 11. The main task of demonstrate false dichotomization culture, both China and the West epistemological roots of it, recommending the problematic conception normally is suspicion of misleading conclusions constitute dangerous resolution problems or substantive homogeneity, problematic repetition culture, false essentials, endorsement tyrannical culture practice, misconception of the culture, rejection cross-culture similarities, generating harmful societal politics. See, this takes out turns the case essentials, critique are historically wrong, and actively conceal non-Western oppression because moves of assertion universal generalized theoretical claims of insufficient comparative history of the central was and lack of awareness of comparative history, great arbitral selective historical fluency, collective uniquely colonial Western reinforcing Eurocentrism, differently could lead to non-Western society and patterns of oppression, typical with theoretical falls and problematic language colonial attitudes and strategies that have been master Western monopoly, the combative oppression, then coming to pick out any to language carefully undergoing indigenousness and authenticity use of legitimate highly oppressive regimes that undermine core values to which upon critical scholar rely. The IP essentialism is bad, it's malleable, not monolithic. Off 24. The laws only the negative law guarantees powers of power with capital creates institutions based on sharing marketization, like profit for the potential to cost you product communities and private properties also create singular subject legal forms of the non-intrusive political signification operates as property of this money, but not used necessarily to mean quantification for hegemony property risk. Also be used for credit for the collaborative communities and united culture. Also granted openness and inclusivity every loss everywhere, both on bad and on good side. Totalizing rejection of IP is bad, engaging the law and learning. This language is to construct practical alternatives is a more effective strategy for radical liberalization. Shivash 24. The critical theorist and anything logging may be part of the solution for CDL locates outside legal thinking. Strategy I'm referring to critique should not be radical only theories based on also practice remedy the evil. These locate alternative within losing any possible reason can see of the external also internal critique of the anti-justice recurs it also depletes the possibility of running political imagination pursuit of practical alternatives. The chance to deploy the legal imagination rather than post-political relations of alienation, domination, take many forms of crossing verification, supervision, revision, destruction, overcome now ways radicalization, deploying the Metaphor and ontology within our existential order requires navigating legal conscious languages in order to know enough to internal critique theoretical radicalization to lead to radical weakening of the critique. Internal critique all reveals the potential possibility of productive of law, radical alternatives in the case of the place within the legal context of his existing system. Go back to the FDA. Vote now to reject the very idea of Chineseness and 22 don't want to suggest the idea of Chinese reason and interrogate the reason to decentralize the world, the reform of the tax game, the reason why there should exist of Chinese ethnicities. Mark the ethnicities.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay, what is stupidity?
We think the alternative is a form that resists bioinformational capitalism, like not knowing what it is. We don't
Okay,
attempt.
so like, you've read a uniqueness argument about communitative capitalism, and you said that all information presented within it is bad. So how is the alt stupid if you did your alt in debate, you read a 1 and C in debate?
Well, you don't know what my alt is.
Well, like you read your links and you read all your stuff in debate.
Well, they're links to the app, not the alt. The alt is separate. The alt is not like the alt.
I mean, you
is,
still presented whatever it is your alternative is.
well, can you
inside
explain
the
to me
space.
what the alt does?
Like,
what do you think
that
the
doesn't
alt
like
does?
that doesn't matter. Like
No,
you still
that is
presented
like
inside
literally
debate.
the focus of the critique. What do you think the alt does?
I mean, it's my cross X. Like, answer my question.
Well, that is the answer. Like whatever you think the alternative does is the answer to your question.
What does that even mean?
Exactly.
Exactly.
You
what?
don't
Like,
know
you
what the
didn't make a single
alternative
point.
does. The whole point of the alternative is that stupidity
Okay, so
cannot.
so why is
Stupidity
it,
breaks the barriers of capitalism
so
because.
why is it good to never know what we're doing?
Well, that's not our argument. Our argument is that the AF gets reinscribed into the capitalist system because we know the claims of the 1AC to like we have limited thought. You like monopolize that thought. You reinscribe those logistics into capitalism. We think that gets co-opted.
So like,
Only the alternative cannot be
okay,
co-opted.
so what do you think co-option is? Like, what does that look like?
Well, we think that like one takes out your solvency, like the AF.
No, like what is co-option?
Well, like capitalism would absorb the AF.
What does that even like? They just like steal the app? Like what?
Well, they prevent it from like doing whatever you think the AF does to solve. So like.
What card says that a capitalist person, because they heard our 1AC in debate, like Cy Turner is going to go ahead and steal our app?
Well, we don't think it's about Psi, but we think that the Dean evidence and the Papchin and Ford evidence both say that critical productivist pedagogy gets absorbed by capitalism. We think that the alternative is not productive.
What is critical productivism?
We think the AF is critical
Okay, so,
productive.
yeah, but what
Like you are
define-
attempting to make change by productive thought,
Okay, so
productive discussions,
you
productive
think any
discourse.
attempt at change is bad?
Well, we think that the 1AC's attempt at change is bad
You
because.
just said that any productive use is bad because it feeds into capitalism. How do you?
What do you mean by
resist it?
productive use? We think that the use of productive rhetoric is bad in the debate space.
Okay, what is productive rhetoric?
The 1AC.
How? Like, can you define it without saying the 1AC?
Yeah, so like attempting to like create solutions to change by.
So this is where I'm getting at, right? Like you just said that like attempting to create solutions to change is bad. What should we do? Like to
Embrace stupidity.
Okay, let's say that there's a genocide in Palestine. What
Yeah.
did the 1AC do about that?
Well, we think that is a separate question. We think that the Palestine critique says that that says that intellectuals within the debate space have a moral obligation to
Okay,
center
how does that
Palestine.
not double term your other kid? Because you said that presented.
Well, it's not a
solutions is
double
bad.
turn. It's like an even if question. Like if you're right that.
Where did you say even if in the 1AC?
Do I have to say the words?
I want to talk about the Chinese essentialism DA. What's the link?
The 1AC uses rhetoric of Chineseness, but multiple 1AC cards. Like your alienation card is about Chineseness. Every other 1AC card is about Asianness broadly. It's a conflation of East Asianness with Chineseness.
I said this seriously. So everybody go for a order.
Give me a sec. I'm good.
Okay, it's case, the Palestine K, and then the other K. Stupidity K.
I'm good.
Order.
I'm not good.
Just everyone.
Let me download it. I'm good. Philosophy is good.
Techno-Orientalism systematically closed the Asian cyber as post-human in contradiction to deliberate humanist subject. This process stripped agency substitute Chinese identity of Western imperialism, intellectual property frames China as recognized attempt to overthrow Western hegemony on partisan racialized launch legibility between the mechanical copy in the East and the human creativity of the West. It ratifies Orientalist techno-cultural imaginary agents as always already inferior. Vote affirmative for an app for the breaks languages, boundary strong between cyber and human is transformed to affirm Asian features of our performance. Use of languages played to destabilize linguistic coherence by endorsing the resolutions letters as code exploded into disarray. This resists static imposition by embracing the fluidity of Chinese identity and incongruency of mechanized multiplicative role of the judge is to maximize Asian energy. There's just too much at stake giving press uniqueness, like hate crimes and geopolitical competition. Now, no essentials of this out. First is no link. First term, the frame of China is generative for Asian students who prepare to prove Asian American movements use the term as a way to theorize culture, community, and collectivize around a shared analytic. Distinctions are fabricated by the imperial core, but our theorization of course are often linked. 22 South Asian not exclusive representations have the European supposed universal the term East provide colors like North repetition portrayal in Asia and Asian then distinguishes between the East and the West background we live in denomination West to show about the river that when it's just the empire from the imperial core and the nose for the hegemony which would find distinction. That's a disadvantage to the they don't hold Asians responsible for signifiers that are socialized into without output. It's analogous to blaming Asians for stealing jobs, which is racist. Second is redeployment. Section 94 by arguing the dominant discourse such as the numbers just again to redeploy the terms of the dominant discourse bill. Now the rejection dissent and the essential dissent. Group them is basically the same thing. Total swing and a miss. The app is on a totalizing rejection of IP north and rejection of IP at all. We merely critique how IP is deployed against Chinese people and the status quo. It's not mutually exclusive using IP for good things like the one he said. After the app firms deliver humanism will co-opt their IP movement to the means that they will be undergirded by racism. No link. Do not foreclose state engagement after restoration of social energy first agents that have the energy to engage in the first place. That's young. Calculated return. Forced description of IP engagement is bad. Every example of a successful agent that engaged in the state to do IP reifies a lot of minority myth because the oldest against the idealization of the Asian that engaged in the state. Palestine kid. Framework, the most link to the consequences of our method. Links of omission are bad. There's infinite things we could have missed, but that's not an opportunity cost of the money see. The net benefit is revolutionary scope, which turns get because only our models generate strategies to combat the state. Perm do well. The afterwards to white settlers stay absent confronting semitic register that always with the white able-bodied male above all else. Violence like the genocide is inevitable. Perm do each do an effort and debate resist the genocide outside. We do not have to be solid. Our accomplice is decolonization outside of the base. There's no link. We're not excluding Palestine. This is a possible precedent that's infinitely regards to the point. It's that liberal humanism is also a structuring logic that affects everybody. Palestinians, Asians, black people, etc. Because it frames them as non-human. The afterwards which supplements Palestinian liberation. The alternative fails. Producing academic discussions of outside violence is bad. First is complacency. They teach traditional speaking and small academic confines is enough, which produces complacency. The academic things the money see to preach to the choir and maintain interest and occupy UC Berkeley 9. Let's talk about the fight and the scene the management of the prevention of the real as much capital, especially building and killing. Apparatus mission of the best year for many skills to obscure the shade of which Peter Plenty is the university degree of true business. Social that factor which produces discourse shape of distress and a way that acceptable values which is done to me. A set of fruitless demands though we a lecture about how to discourse ignoring the fact that we are produced by discourse about discourse which is language only words about words of the man in university college permits lectures on race wildfire reviews and invisible expeditional assault on action. Second is don't assuage judges and students wash their hands of responsibility by thinking the genocide is over by just reading it in 1 and C. Third is pornography. The debate community is waiting to watch them with bated breath. Presenting scars, feeds, and colonialism, intrinsic to the Chunky Gang. 14 researchers do not reflect upon underlying beliefs that go and explore the source major body merchants instead of coloniality, the concept of constitution holds the winning bodies more aggressive, the bodies not winning through the pro-minded bodies and all winning bodies not benefit from regardless of pain and more compelling the privilege more intelligence body more experience and pain is evidence authentic not very political play acting reform in the form of other cultural ideology Hans about to play for pain research the reality that comes from abuse and neglect. Remember, none of this links back to us. We're solely in interpersonal discussion, bonds in debate, them choosing to talk about grand structures out there. We have no agency to alter fees the neoliberal economy. Declaration against genocide, antithetical to anti-racist Ahmad. All four whiteness gets reproducing the code active with active individual myths back practice, the mission itself because it's good answer does not perform that under it's a form when it does what it says. The declaration of anti-racist commit is not the code whiteness and speech is not anti-racist commit institutional action which could be described as anti-racist the color minus the reproduce white for the split their unforeseen. That turns the K declaration intensifies and hides the postmodern hegemony whiteness Ahmad away non-conformist speech do not want to do not do what they say they do, creating an illusion who do support postmodern authority of the bonds by considering authority and under the illusion of friendship. It is an intimate space predicated on fantasy love that bonds to go of the race and the unfit to prove that this involves a desire for ritual anti-racism comes to ego. You know that you're in trouble. But the afstalls, academic archives bad is advantage to voting for it. Commodification is inevitable in the status quo. The link turn is power to shift currencies from movement. That's when you see conduct, discursive genocide, terror, bro. 17 non-individual Afghan people feel like objects of the future of the hands, settlers, rebellion, to talk about their terrain, in whichever they can become advocate for native codes, landscape, produce, vegetable, plus, anti-vax, every way yet to time, and debate arts and material land reparation gains involve different native people, organized aggressives, not active leadership of the debate arts, and also benefits for native people, not black native people, and debate for one of these recognition, native associations, land distribution, what the reason could this be the church around the recognition for the southern? Stupidity again. Framework classifies out from above. Perm do both. First, agent subjects are akin to Morpheus and the Oracle find no obligation to the matrix. Our method is hostage shaking liberalism is symbolic exchange agent semiotic terrorism that they demand. Second, an afro is not in the business of literal meaning making and irreducibility enables hidden qualities. We terrorize white signifiers that expect transfers 1 in C422. The most digital is messy advancing experimentation of the capital and conscious when accurate reference and organization of the accuracy open and alternative interpolation fast protection and social where we can facilitate failure counter rejection the reproduction capitalist religion into what language utilize language just supposed to be against linguistic shows the producer world's innovation advanced Marxist future cannot make such an experiment happen when you try to open space for kind of holding clash of the circuit of the accurate of law last word decomposition individual capital subjectivity counter political system could have stating revolution not just interpolitical dialogue could have that reveals limitations of simultaneous open space of social relationship cannot know the present but can only feel heterogeneity in the base capital we can build communism buckles it's a process that pro is a process that is sonic circle to Brooklyn utilize opposition of counter interpolation and politics there refuse to argue the program that capital could accommodate or even understand perm do each parallel never better action sarcasm bad it's an advantage to voting out that was the conduit of this well and Valverde 19 the system anti-political we live academic and victories not meaning beyond academic dismantle corrupt system but lead to more justice that a country just mean the academic academy which they can have we our academy want to summon to the marginalized inside we have the party switch academics institutionalized culture by keeping modest question raise the pursuit by one life for communities we take action now the Kantian evidence is wrong when you see proliferation of semiotic difference in the form of meaning making that is rendered incoherent apolitical Western and apolitical by Western frames of legibility so nobody sees it as sort of that Stanford, Welch, and Young but the app is anti-capitalist first is seeing with the app rejuvenate social energy by breaking down semiotic systems destroy agent agency absent that restoration bodies do not have the energy to engage in anti-capitalist resistance in the first place second is multiplicity daffodils marginalized bodies to form transnational resistance around a common analytical balance that's well third is power question semiotic makes capitalism unsustainable commodity students symbolic meaning extravagant thoughts only voting out for versus semiotic extraction that's B for the old is bad first epistemology they complain agent scholars use the economy's visibility against itself and agent liberatory fantasy the old naturalized racial melancholia through submission OECD 9 if you remember American when the categories of first be limited to some discipline ministers consider social is such a meaning social option disability creating frame we will find one of the second is fatalism the theorization is violent for people of color use the economy to theorize community the old racist agent the academy's weaponization of the university to produce alternative pedagogies which sees the university to racist means they don't actually abolish the university but create the means for white supremacist operations out of it. Old fails. First is PerfCon. They said any presentation of solutions is bad. The old does that, and the Palestine K does as well. Rejected team. PerfCon is hypocrisy and magnifies bonds. Second, rooting out residual links is bullets for transparency. Holding something responsible. On presumption. Baudrillard 93. The recovery that every answer for every action with and not to expulsion of the rest of become use of the concept program management of life. This is futile because the individual transformed into the identity his will, its responsibility, his desire, and exercise the control of the circles that cross passive then thoughts are unheard of certitude. Third is white congregating good. Agents at work can dip in and out of visibility to remain indecipherable. White populace must remain mappable. With congregating races is key to anticipate the total relative experience accountability. The ult is a perfect crime acceleration. A symbolic collapse, last is actually simulation. Noise step, there's nothing original in the strategy of radical alternative alternatives to the object of the final figure of the one series. The object the risk is that the other sensitive spirit, generalized implication, alternative bodyguard, is the logical criminal thought would be another religious association can ever proceeding with the God, such as the object, the bodyguard, and implication of the carbon to be the simulation rather than accidentally the alterity the dangerous providing new the alterity the translation possible to truly come to the actual just had a receiver no escape to the instant search reality that we push beyond scare we have passive response to this game there's no alterity can only body play the game of transition to play is play to live in a recording accurate reposition themselves with the soft crippling loop of transition. Yeah.
You get a few weeks for cars.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Stupidity K, before we highlight, you said we terrorize white signifiers that expect transparency. What does this mean?
Jerry.
Yeah, so every Ford card that you read is an AF card that we read on the perm for the cap K. So the Ford evidence says that like
Well, this is
synchronous, opaque, like incoherent organization is good. That was 8 minutes of the 1AC.
Okay, sure, yes. Some parts of the 1AC were like incoherent. Right after those parts, you explained what it means, what the AF does.
But voting AF endorses our method of an AFRA, which
Why does it not
endorses
also
incoherency.
endorse the methods of like explaining literally what you just did?
Because an AFRA is incoherency. Voting AF endorses
Sure,
an AFRA.
the like
as a good
idea of an AFRA can be incoherent, but you explain that
I mean,
coherency
that, like,
right after.
so this is like if you went for like a diss out against a policy app, like against a link that like we explain later. Like it is like just because our method.
Yeah, but your link is predicated on not knowing.
No, just because we explain what our things mean, an AFRA and endorsing an AFRA, what that means is endorsing the incoherency.
Right,
of
but
the
we
code
endorse
for
the
1AC.
entirety of 1AC, no?
No, you negate the method of the F, and we
Okay,
read,
so-
we read a framework interpretation that says that absent links to the method and causal consequences of the F, that's bad because it decks revolutionary skills.
Why?
Because it means that we can have debates over infinite prior questions that don't do about the desirability of ways and methods to solve.
How do we determine desirability?
Like you have links to the causal consequences of the F.
Okay, sure.
Say
So
the
if we win
consequences
a
are
link that like the explanation of the AF right after
Yeah, like
results in a causal impact.
explanation of the app is an underlying representation.
Okay, but
is
if
a
we
link to
win
the
that
consequences.
results in a impact after, do we get the link?
No, because again, we only endorse an AFRA.
So it's only like the literal. Okay,
Yeah,
so what is an AFRA?
Voting app only endorses our method.
Okay, so what is an AFRA?
An AFRA is the incoherency of cyborg blanks.
Okay, so my question is then, how do you solve if you explain that coherency?
Because voting app endorses an AFRA.
Right, but like, what does that mean
Like,
outside of this
okay,
room? Like,
our-
Sai obviously heard
no,
you
to be
right
clear, like
after.
our cards say that not like we don't think all communication ever is bad. But it's about displaying moments of language's failure and moments of incoherency to solve.
Got it. The essentialism DA redeployment. What does this mean? How does it function?
Sure, so the 1NC read functionally a word pick as a dissad. The citation evidence says that we can redeploy terms that you said are bad. So it's
Right,
just
but
like
we've said
term-
that word excludes others. How does redeploying for them solve? How do they redeploy?
We're redeploying it ourselves. You read a card that says essentializing Chinese Americans using the term Chinese is bad, so we redeployed it in a good way.
How?
Well, sure, the Lin evidence above that talks about how Chinese Americans and just actually Asians in general can redeploy terms of like that have been dominated by
Sure,
imperial
yeah, I
discourse.
do want to talk about this card. This card, like right after, says focusing on depictions of the East Asian cyborg. We've also critiqued the idea of East Asian. You conflate East Asianness with Chineseness. There's other forms of East Asianness, correct?
Well, if you read like the very top of the card, it says other forms of Asianness are not excluded. That's like the first one.
Yeah, from techno-orientalist. Sure.
Yeah, correct.
Sorry, man.
There was no conflict. It was just personal.
On case, what was the role of the judge?
Maximize Asian energy.
Order is stupidity. It's done. Thank you.
I just got it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 sec. It's scanning.
You're good.
Viruses. I'm good.
I'm sorry.
Anyone not ready?
I'm
Okay. You should leave some space for an overview. The asked presentation of critical scholarship to annihilate ignorance through learning reproduces a cycle of productivity which gets absorbed by communicative capitalism. One sees desire for visibility through oversaturated dissent, demands for limited attention, and nuanced argumentation is a reconfiguration of bioinformational capitalism that generates a knowledge economy which strengthens imperialism, colonialism, and capitalist exploitation. That's Papachan for indeed. The alternative is stupidity as an ontological weapon, embracing permanent uncertainty, resists calculation and measurements because it is useless to financial capital that acts as a form of defectation by short-circuiting the system. That's forward in society. It thrives on unintelligibility, so that it isn't co-opted. On framework, we meet our KFM burden of rejoinder. Smith 21. Very think what it means to evaluate the resolution from a radical state sequence for writing or policy economy. Negative things can win within the case. On details, critique arguments always engaged with affirmative case terms to counter methods and critical arguments. These operate simulation disadvantages can come kind of structural critiques. You need to be running your idea of what length arguments is. There are different levels of length. So what kind of language and metaphors, construction, idea, and values and community are being invoked. How works the ideals, radical construction, today the actual performance of the advocacy by studying historian consequent terms and finding academics or for links you can find a specific strategy for every affirmative. Say affirmative goes, but every part of the all is mutually exclusive with the app. We agree that the one is he tried to resist capitalism, but they have failed. Reactionary capture today, the firm leverages stupidity as part of the one the app's articulated product. The codification enables reactionary capture by capitalism in the state. Only the all alone performs. So 419 in West Germany in the 80s, with the state census, there are 500 local vote moves which suggested access from these false information coupled with illegible census forms to returning empty forms. The court struck down part of the law, although the courts codified the boycott victory. This very codification revealed to the state how to bid crowd legislation for the next census. In the 83 movement and Nebulous Red Network coalesced not around the demand to remain ineffable, but also for collective stupor. The centrality didn't take the form of communication, but a refusal to communicate. Power arrangements were disrupted and can be configured. Stupid residents and radical blocked the system, denying the state of death and the mental theater when made the pathological as a movement drive to undercut the president looked at their entire either positing on the alternatives to was a secret access to provide respite and other resistance. The movement can free us from the demand to make demands and take us the resistance to break and be affected by it, undercut and interrupted by it. There is the communicability to transform stupidity into codified knowledge by tying together with the ASP project. Only the alt constants of but any evades capitalist capture and force predetermined signification. The burn forecloses the alt's pure potentiality by commodifying into a means and end, only preferring not to reject the articulation as such in ways that can be captured. Next is I'll do the link stuff here on the forward stuff. One, speech is not resistance, that's what above. Their over-nuanced argumentation gets co-opted by bioinformative capitalists by attempting to engage in abolishment of ignorance. That's Papachan 4. The one you see Lynn Evanson's explanation of the poem Anaphora transforms an embracement of opacity into a transparent affirmation. One you see Stanford and Welch, which they're citing here, explain that the cyber ability disrupt by meaning nothing, which defeats the purpose of intelligibility that they think is good. The alternative is a pick out of the one you see's explanation and description of the strategy. They say the forward card, but it's a definitely neg. That was in cross-sex and technical orientalist critical policy verify capitals by teaching students to identify and reveal themselves. The content of the critique is irrelevant because it's a public form. It is all the capitals advance to disorientation wrong. Even if you have some level of disorientation, the concreteness and transparency of their arguments as a form of resistance proves the link. You know that the app does, but you do not know what the alternative does, and that's the point. And 3, it does not generate new futures. Empirically, FLC 23 use the critique for in whom they are speaking what its effect might just include unwanted or no results at all. The force of the critiques only found in its effect. It's hard to see how critical reading of refutes that it doesn't colleagues, but has any claim to being radical or emancipatory, like of challenges of the transition can each link to address or estimation of the impact of reaction digital politics have little to do with the recent debate. Interpreting and demystifying our instances of contrary, they don't care about your technical critique. We must work with the critical theories and new form of cultural capital. Even the academic professor or critical makes a vocabulary assumption and ways of reading that are unequal to theory, grow inhibition, politics, humiliation, exploit populist movements, academics are most related to the way their manner can make others feel small. Make their others feel small. And next is perm to the each. Across all the answers that I said there, it's still from perm to both. It still doesn't work because the alternative is unnuanced argumentation. The attempt is to understand the information capital as the root cause. I've already explained that. That was there already. Next is the condo card, but the condo card is exactly what we're critiquing by explaining it, by explaining the strategy. That's what was bad. The Valverde card is wrong because one, they can't shift cultures. The gets automatically co-opted by capitalism too. Even if this doesn't interact with anything, it doesn't solve or isn't a reason why the AF strategy of explaining their strategy is good, which means that it has nothing to do with the links at all. The Stanford and Weldy card is exactly what the links that we're talking about because it explains the strategy, it tells us what cyberpoetics does and how it disrupts it, that allows the capitalism to suck it up and to understand what the AF is doing, co-opting their strategy altogether. Wells might be right about multiplicity, but that doesn't matter because we'll concede the Bevo card that the prior question is informational capitalism, and that comes first. So if it gets co-opted by information capitalism, the multiplicity stuff doesn't matter at all. Next, the victim blaming stuff. One, there is no victim blaming because we haven't called East Asians. We're just disagreeing with parts of the 1AC and their strategy, i.e. the evidence they read that explains it. So there's no victim blaming happening around the day. When you see re-explain this in the 1ER, we get new answers in the 2ER. Next is the perfcon stuff. Negation theory requiring ideological consistency prevents rigorous scratch that. Rejecting performative contradiction results in sedimented knowledge. Their argument is politically disempowered. It's like 91 of objectives to try to avoid a perfect contradiction. We have sedimented academic structure and sedimented knowledge. There is now a concern. Where do you don't you go? What do you miss? And if they keep trying to avoid performative contradiction, fear of performative contradiction discourages and marginalizes reflective inquiry into the status quo of our own statements and own knowledge. Fear of performative contradiction has a conservative effect. And tuner distillation stalls. Introducing multiple perspectives doesn't preclude the contestation between consistent advocacy and final rebels. Tuner succession levels the playing field and go negative reject their attempt to police the boundaries of scholarship. Slide 91, the objection, actually don't read that and cross that argument entirely. There's also just no perfcon because we've said that specifically the alternative is what has to be unintelligible. Even if we read a strat in the Palestine that is the roll of an egg, and we can just not go for it no matter what. So it doesn't matter. And now again, tuner distillation solves. The Asians can dip out in and out. Doesn't solve anything because they're studying the strategy. So even if they dip in or dip out, it doesn't matter because it still gets co-opted and there's no strategy or survival strategies left that they prevented. It becomes null and void. The road card makes absolutely no sense. It's about Boger or Largy, and it's about not understanding anything. It's just critiques of simulacra. It has no contextualization to the affirmative or why the F is consistent with Boger or R, or why that's good. We're just saying unintelligibility and all the other stuff is bad. Go back to the firms. Reject any type of form of severance perms, even if they're trying to make one in the 1ER. The reactionary attempt to shut down critique that echoes the cowardly liberalism of the Democratic Party, coordinated shaming campaigns to silence leftist defense debate should be a space for relentless critique and counter-critique where students develop a critical consciousness and learn to develop and deploy critical vocabularies and methods. Any clash and dodging disagreements requires free speech. Shown cultures where defense is only permitted in areas officially cordoned off by those in power. And y'all definitely can't solve the case. The internal link is about haptic relationality, external to status quo naturalization of hierarchy to provide methods of resistance for survival. Only also the alt does that by engaging in acts of stupidity to actually resist capitalism. And the case definitely doesn't outweigh because, first of all, it gets co-opted immediately, and productivist pedagogy reifies the imperialism they critique. Caption 422. As a form of capitalism, imperialism, saturating pedagogy, ready to protect this, but also colonial, mastering subject as governing a new theory, selling a topic that learning is a complete story evading the indigenous unknowns, discovering new ways, working the veil of doctoring people and darkening everything based on value, scrutiny, discipline. All these people are taking a war. This is the reason why anti-colonial struggles have long predicted, insisting on anti-subsidy of analysis of indigenous people have lived and died in the name of blocking us the moment the European hands touches the hand of ancient knowledge they evaporated immediately. And instead of mimicking imperialism, we require forms of knowledge that allow the unknown to simply be that can be often confusion and journey like a body of peaceful towards disability, combustion, stupidity. At the point we are naturally run into the war and all types of disability is a form of student. Shift from the discourse that conservative external terms that is terms of autonomy people to alternative metaphors such as foolishness. Metaphors such as.
You good?
Yep.
Okay. Explanation is always bad.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Explanation is always bad. Like explaining things.
We think explaining the strategy defeats the purpose of the strategy.
Okay, so do you disagree that the 2NC explained what the K was?
We didn't explain what stupidity was.
But you explained what the K was.
We explained our links and why
Okay,
explaining
so
our strategy is bad, but we did not explain what
and you
stupidity
explained your
is.
strategy. How do you not link to the K?
Okay,
What's going
so the 1EC has an advocacy. It says that unintelligibility is good, and then it explains the poems, the forms of unintelligibility as like, and then explains like why
No,
the
the
purpose of it, or
1NC
why that does.
The 1NC said,
Yeah.
quote, the alternative is stupidity. Vote neg for reasons we prefer not to articulate. That's not an advocacy?
You don't know what stupidity is. That
you
is
just
the point.
explained,
It is
you just explained the
unintelligible
thing.
to you.
You talked about
We
it
haven't
for 8
explained
minutes.
to you why to vote for stupidity other than the links, why the 1EC is bad.
Okay, sure. Okay, so the alternative is just like, we never talk about anti-Asian violence?
That's
Because
not
that's
true.
explaining
We think your advocacy is bad. We agree with the rest of the parts of the 1EC. This is a critique of certain parts of the 1EC.
Yeah,
It's not
sure. So I'm asking,
disagreeing
like,
with
what's your
that anti-Asian violence is like, it's not agreeing that, it's not saying
Okay,
anti-Asian
sure.
violence is
The
okay.
Felsky evidence you read is about like capitalists, like people coming into university markets, you know, like internship events, stuff like that, and that's where they co-opt critical knowledge. What about this you think is analogous to debate?
I don't know where you are.
The Felsky card that you read, it's in your book.
Under what heading?
Felsky 23, the act does not generate new features, is what I wrote on my phone. Something like that.
The Felsky chart specifically just says that alternatives that explain themselves and that are intelligible obviously fail. It's just counterproductive.
Yeah, okay, my question is, how is this debate? This is about like capitalists, like corporations going to colleges to recruit people for work.
It's about like revolutionary strategies, but even if you don't find Felsky, the better part is definitely the 419 part of the Purview book.
Okay, so who's
It's-
doing
it's
the, okay, sure. So who's doing the co-opting? Like capital, like corporations come into debate and they're like, oh, you explained an for us, so like we're gonna co-opt you now.
Well, it's about bioinformational capitalism as a whole. You've read that part in the 1EC. It gets co-opted immediately into like the wider like capitalism, and it just gets co-opted.
Who does co-opting?
Co-option, it's done by
Can happen to the debate
you
community.
can debate community or just
Debate
people knowing what the strategy does. When like the more rounds you win on it, people and like the more times you explain it,
Okay,
people
so
know what it does.
what if we win on the 1EC, the debate community is going to co-opt an AFRA and that causes capitalism and colonialism? How?
That
Like, what is going on here?
that
There's zero
further-
internal link between anything.
that's you just explained it. It
Okay,
further
sure.
entrenches the current like capitalist regime.
Okay, the Smith
You're
card
explaining your
that
strategy
you
as
meet the burden of
capitalist.
rejoinder. What do you think this card says?
It says that we can meet our burden of rejoinder.
No,
by
it
doing
just
certain
explains what
things.
it just explains what a K is in debate.
No, it explains the negative arguments that you can read against that to win.
That's what I said.
Sending. Should be. The orders, the Palestine K, the case. Okay. Sorry, lost you. Not going for Palestine, but it's not office because we can both agree that that talking about Palestine is good, but not in the debate space. The case. Extending the essentialism DA here, on the role of the judge, both decay and the DA link term decays, which proves that the affirmative results in worse energy for Asian debaters. 2AC1, the link debate. At the very top of the 2AC is the link. Kendo's claims that there is a singular IP relationship with Chinese that discursively conflates essentialist Chinese and Asian IP cultures. This is sound of centrism, reductionist, oversimplifying, and wrong. 15, discussing Confucius opposed IP, competition have gone for the challenge of the Asian, the gaps that put generalize the Confucius debate over intellectual property development station. Confucius also holds culture race and number of countries Islam dominant Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Hinduism, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Buddhism, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Asian countries adopt Confucianism for different races and varying Chinese ideas or graft onto indigenous cultures within the coexisting countries. Now, also separate version of Confucius with increasing differences, discussing discrete values and nature of the understood historical colonizer prism, focus global interaction culture, recent theories on ontological overlay to deterministic culture, whether we're discussing Asian culture influence based on competing generalization culture, stereotypes, what's its own communication faces the Hong Kong's entrepreneurs and individuals says Western counterparts of cultures in Asia just different. The categories that explains will do much worse than Vatican West, multi-cultural region would be highly problematic to Asian key framing issues. They have conceded that doing the app by focusing, they have conceded that doing the app by focusing on the relationship of Asians as a whole, picking out of that solves all their offense. No new answers. Drop the turns case arguments there. Culturalism and essentialism outweighs important. It causes a fallacy of dichotomizing cultures, results in an endless stream of problematic assumptions, normative, suspicious, and political contingency relationships with society that erases differences within East Asian cultures that furtherizes the marginalization and otherization of those not deemed the model citizens. That's the evidence they drop. That's a self-defeating prophecy that results in targeted social policies which reject cross-cultural similarities. It destroys the idea of Chineseness because of the conflation of every race as East Asian is dropped. Impact means the only risk of deleting theorization and shared analytics is wrong. Northview focused on racialized discourses of Chineseness is a formation of convoluted relationship between race and nation. There's a multitude of nation states that have emerged out of Western colonialism, such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, that are generalized as Chinese, that are races that a difference in an effort of establishing coherent nations out of the multiple races. That's on evidence. Kento's analytic of shared analytics furthers this homogenization, which is the link. Northview has generalized experience of East Asians, South Asians, and even with races within the East Asian label into a single form of Asianness. Our argument is that China is a diverse nation with many distinct and interrelated cultures that cannot be distilled into a single essence. The one I see Han evidence says that quote Quan is used in Chinese concept of intellectual property. Says the concept, the as in singular, this is the conflation of Chineseness throughout IP as a model, furthering its centralized logistics. Asians, quote, Asians are positioned as non-humans, but their cars are about alienness are only in the context of Chinese alienation, essentializing academic depictions of Chineseness, a racist complex heterogeneous and fragmented experience of actual people turns case. Drop from the one to C2 is a fabricated distinction through quote through South Asian and East Asia are not excluded from techno-orientalist narratives, but I'm focusing on the depictions of East Asian cyborg. That is the link. The depiction of the East Asian cyborg is the conflation. 2AC lends explicit rhetoric of the obviously explains the relation of the cyborg as a singular relationship, which denies the diversity of East Asian. It's also above the quote. The last part of the card, distinctions between East and West, how fabricated intent of domination. Link again. There are obvious differences between the culture in East Asia and East and West Asia. The rejection is a form of assimilationist politics that is an independent. You should independently reject the team. One is Lacey's representations of the table of what is and is not. What is and is not is an essential distinction between Chinese and Western ontologies and epistemologies. Orienting and critique scholars with the Western and non-Western as Orientalist biology, both as single and unified homogeneous sciences and non-taking account differences within cultures and societies to go to wide differences ontological epistemological research concepts. Because one of many perspectives Chinese and Japanese culture on top of the surface and Malaysia and more all attempts to equally arrange the common system that applies high binaries to East and West as East and West and non-West modern nutrition ways to go on the typology replicate the East and West binaries of Orientalist discourses. Their attempts to define what is and is not intelligible is the link. 2AC3 was the blaming argument. Our argument is not that we are blaming Kento or Jerry, rather we are critiquing the choice of rhetoric. We are also not blaming any Chinese scholarship. The only the pick fosters us in an inclusive society. Our authors are also Asian scholars crossfire from the 2NC, crossfire the role of the ballot and the blaming stuff from the 2NC. Their essentialism. Go to 2AC4, the redeployment argument. Drop that rejecting the idea of Chineseness solves. We are not deleting the term Chineseness, but rather interrogating racial thinking. Only the alternative rejection solves deployment, not the app. Their argument is part and parcel to tension created for Singaporeans of Chinese descent. Despite being a unique and culturally diverse nation, the government the government has reinforced their Chineseness through generalization of racial politics, despite a lack of overlap. That's the evidence. Their calls for redeployment cannot solve because they've created a non-universally accessible debate space for both for non-Asian debaters or East Asian debaters who are not Chinese. Finishing the on-card here, rather than single Chinese race, the third Chinese historic identity, cultural dynamics, historical, involving the highlights issue difficulty while the essentially homogeneous possible radical issues. After foreclose the redeployment for non-Chinese folk, this forces them to adapt to the model Asian.
I really need to use the restroom.
Lacey.
I woke up and it was hurting.
Because it's cold. Are you drinking water?
It's gone. Okay, after that.
No, some not. Kento, I'm not gonna lie. We literally said we'd hit you in presets, and we did, and it was kind of crazy.
Bro, since when did y'all stop going for tea? Kind of like a KVK school.
We're not allowed to. We're not allowed to read
We
tea
just
anymore.
there's like a lot of offense like K teams go for when reading T.
Yeah.
And
We're also bad. I
I
think
don't know
that's
if you
why.
remember that 2 and T from last year on TU against you was awful.
Which one?
That I gave at like second year state.
Oh yeah, dude.
It was
Yeah, that's so
awful.
bad. I mean, my 1 hour was worse, so.
It was an argumentative round.
Oh, yeah. Kickstarter. It really did.
We might have to steal some of that.
10 minutes. space and then the stupidity gate.
Are there any cards?
Good. So,
The resolution replicates Asian mechanization by framing the East as robotic copiers in contradiction to the West creativity, redefining Asian inferiority. Vote affirmative for NAFTA that embraces the incoherency of robotic hermeneutics that disrupts the semiotic coding of Asian as a machine. Roll the judges to maximize Asian energy. They're not benefit, which will all be later. The Chinese essentials turn to 0%. One is no link. Our link evidence is incredibly clear in the sense that our usage of the word does not lead to essentialism because other Asians and people can access it. We agree that there are different scales to violence, but have one structure unique argument about liberal humanism that applies to everyone. That's why we said imperial core and not the West. Second is not us. Our link evidence says words like Chinese and Asian were imposed by the West onto us, not the other way around. They drop the external dissad, holding us responsible for signifiers we were forced into without input. Is victim blaming that magnifies violence? Our answers don't apply because the point is that it wasn't our choice of rhetoric in the first place. Third is turn. Framing a Chinese is good. It generates a common and analytic violence for communities to collectivize around. Empirics prove the term was historically used to motivate support and revolution by uniting Chinese bodies. The U evidence is wrong. We have never said that all Asians relate to IP in the same way. Our 1C Han evidence is explicitly clear that has no fixed definition. It means different things for different people. That was 1C cross-sex. The pick doesn't solve. That was above. This can't solve for common analytic offense. Shared analytics is not homogenization. The point is that we can come together based on whatever similarities we may have to combat violence in the first place. Just because Lynn uses the word the doesn't mean that they're centralizing. The rest of the card clearly goes up and says that she agrees that there are different scales and forms of violence. No voting issue. Lynn is about, quote, distinctions between the East and the West as they were described in Western media, end quote. Not that we have said that there is no difference between the two. Okay. The overview is answered by the perm doing both solves and has multiple net benefits. One is link turn. This case, a total swing and a miss. I dare you to go over this. The entire 1AC was an explicit impact turn to the entire case because it's an affirmation of opaque, incoherent, and meaningless. The meaninglessness of cyber poetics. It answers to all of their co-option offense because capitalism can't understand or map it because it's literally seen as Asians doing whatever it's literally seen as Asians just saying random things that they can't understand. They have no idea what's going on, so they have no incentive to co-opt it. Second is white counterguising turn. This was totally makes count on the 20 and they get nothing else. The perm says Asian cyber can dip in and out of visibility to remain indecipherable and protect their radical alterity, but white public should not be given the same luxury. The Proud Boys must remain mappable, invisible, so Asians can counter-gaze, tactically anticipate, and avoid violence. Total refusal of transparency obscures responsibility. Whites who use the racial slurs will hide behind opacity and anonymity, which ensures racial terror, which was dropped internally in the blog. No capitalist caution. They dropped that they have solved capitalism by giving Asians energy to resist capitalism expropriation in the first place. Explaining the all as stupidity proves we don't link to their offense, or they do. They provided explanations by saying that it's incoherent and what it intends to do. I reject coherency, which still maps out a strategy in an academic space for capitalism to co-opt. No mutual exclusivity. Every link, turn, and perm argument proves we're not no reactionary. Capture decided it's not reactionary because the entire 1EC is in line with the alternative. From the beginning, the all alone fails, which will be explained below. The app is key. No communicability decided was answered above because we don't link. We also don't have an endpoint that zeros all their links. Our project doesn't reach fulfillment. It's not just read the 1EC game over, but process of negation where every single round evokes a potential to subvert white power. No predetermined signification decided was done above. We have no end. It's an iterative process. Speech isn't resistance link was answered above. Independently, it's a reason to reject the team. Some people literally don't have the means, energy, or anything to do anything except for speech, and they pathologize them by saying speech is not meaningful or it's not meaningful resistance when they literally have no other option to do so. Explanation of the poem is irrelevant. They link back. That was above, but voting out only endorses our method, not that parts, not their parts. That means the pick is competitive. Perm to the counterplan, but picks are voting issue. They steal the app and rob us for performance. The new voting issue is justified because the pick wasn't clear. Anything else justifies cowardice and hiding picks. But the pick doesn't solve anyway because it doesn't access the white countergazing stuff above, and it still links to all of our alternates, which will all be below. No disorientation. Wrong link. It was done above. They link to because they explain the all to some extent, which and their answers prove there's no bright line. So if there's no bright line to how much information is necessary, then we obviously don't link. Critique does generate new features. They disavow decades of resistance and critical argumentation and debate, which has led to more minority conviction and critical argumentation inside the debate. And critique has been used historically outside of debate for things like the French Revolution, American Revolution, etc. Because critique provide basis for those things to happen in the first place. The Academy bad is straight term. They dropped uniqueness. Resistance in debate is terminally novel. That means you can't solve any of their links. And all of you that want to see actively contributes to an archive of performance debate that serves as training ground for activists to refine strategies and for minorities to find refuge. Even if the Academy now is violent, critique has the potential to reconfigure and subvert the Academy from within. So try to flips out. That's a cognitive and validity evidence. This answers all their offense because debate is a key training ground for minorities, and many people find it as a unique space, and they disavow this entire space just because of some communicative counts and decide that we could resist, and they don't have uniqueness. So try to is asked. The answers don't matter. We're not co-opted. That was all above because one key is explicitly incoherent and it's not rendered legible by Western frames of legibility. Now, BFO can only be NAFCAR. They dropped that capitalism is primarily semiotic. Commodities are given symbolic meaning, which is the root cause of unsustainability, framing a fast fashion, the prestige of stock markets and crypto. reforestation, all facility consumption, and then collapse, y'all. It doesn't resolve semiotic extraction, which yields, y'all, not going for victim blaming, but they drop the fatalism to that. The interpretation is not for people of color. They use the academy to theorize community. Y'all racist Asians, and the academy's weaponization of the university to produce alternative pedagogy, so they see the university to write racist. They don't actually abolish the means of it, not going for perf con, don't answer any of the other cost applications. The PIC's bad. Total distillation obviously doesn't solve PIC bad because the damage is already done. Their answers to the white countergazing made no sense. They didn't answer the second benefit of white populist visibility being good. The permits and severance, that was above because we're in line. Yes, perms. Any leftist wants unbeatable act plus stage, which fractures solidarity by tearing people apart at the margins. That's worse for skills because they exclude real world correlations out there for competition and debate.
What was time, y'all?
3:30. Anyone not ready? Perfect. We only have to win a risk of the link to win the entire debate. The Northview completely drop that co-option happens if we win a risk of the link coming out of the 1 ER. They don't get new answers in this 2 ER, so it's like the co-option stuff's here. As soon as the 1 EC happens, they agree that unintelligibility is good, but then they explain themselves and explain why their strategy works. By explaining their strategy, they are enforcing communicability and are doing exactly what their 1 EC says is bad, essentially, which leads to co-option by the state and by informational capitalism as a whole. They don't get new responses to this in the 2 ER because the 1 ER did not push back on the co-option claim at all, which means the link automatically turns case. I just don't want to risk that they definitely increase by informational capitalism. Next, I'll explain the link to be here. That was already about, but first they say the link term is a 1EC, the 1EC is a link term, but that's not true at all because I explained it above that even if some cards agree with the critique, we don't agree with the way that they've double-turned themselves essentially by explaining it. The Stanford card and the noise card, as well as the second and third link cards specifically explain why cyber codes are good and why the unintelligibility of the AF is the AF poems mean nothing and why that is good. They've explained their strategy throughout in 1EC cross-text and as 1EC is a form of resistance that allows bioinformational capitalism to suck it in and not care about it. The forward card and the reactionary capture DA is super good about the 1983 census boycott that was empirically successful simply because they refused to communicate with the people around them that forced people to listen to them and allowed them to resist capitalist structures and resist co-option like many other movements have failed to do, which is the death knell of most movements altogether. They've explained their strategy. They've automatically lost some bad. The dip in and dip out stuff does not make any sense and don't vote on this. Even if they win the dip in and dip out, the means to dip in and dip out, which is the strategy they've enforced in the 1EC, is which has been explained, obviously doesn't work. So only stupidity solves in this the scenario anyways. It also wasn't dropped. But second, who are these white people that have no luxury, and who are they in this debate stage? Aren't explained, and how this affects in the debate stage doesn't explain. So I don't know what this has to do with the K at all. But either way, hedge on the first response I had here. They say the role of the energy stuff here, but I'll do this one. The role of the energy stuff, we definitely win here because both the K definitely link turns the case. The all link turns role of the judge. The co-option zeros Northview ability to generate energy for themselves because it makes them open up to bioinformational capitalism and all the semiotic capitalism that they say is important, which makes it much worse for them. Presumption argument here, they can't solve because of no energy. Only a risk that the unintelligibility of stupidity has a chance to solve. I'll explain the all here. The stupidity is the ontological weapon, embracing permanent uncertainty, resist calculation, even if you don't know what it is. That's the point of it because we're short-circuiting the system. You don't know what it is, and that's why we're good. If you're unintelligible and you don't understand what the stupidity is at the end of the debate, that's the reason you vote for us. Next is the endpoint stuff. Yes, they've already made an endpoint. Yes, they've linked to it. They've said their means as their advocacy, and the endpoint being that the resist the us versus them paradox and the psychic violence thing that they talked about earlier. So that doesn't happen there. The picks bad stuff. You should scratch this off your phone. I'll literally explain the all does not doing the explanation portions of the app and every link was based on. Shouldn't punish us with late-breaking debates when they're never asked and crossed, but they're good evidence. One app burden. The affirmative should be responsible for defending their word choice with VTAC is the only non-arbitrary stand, allowing the app to interpret what they mean, prevents effective pre-rounded preparation, strategic development, unfair skewing the debate in their favor. Doesn't steal the app. Anything could be a pig if they use minute parts of the ONC's method. No run for what method entails so many every round. They say their role as a negatives to disprove their method, but picks to disprove the solvency skill of the app, which is part of an AFRA. Others vote neg on presumption because the app has no solvency. Success is the key. Evidence should determine whether language choices matter, not debate theory. Evidence prevents a race to the bottom, and after are justified. They've introduced the claim that discourse or representation matters. They can't have it both ways. If language matters, it should definitely be a legitimate basis for competition. Yeah. What? And they've said that the app is semiotic difference, the form of meaning making that is rendered coherent and in apolitical Western frames of legibility. So nobody sees that third thing. We will see that the app is a form of legibility, and we win that the alt solves here as well. Second. Yeah, they say the uniqueness and the psychic violence stuff, but it doesn't, obviously their strategy and advocacy doesn't work in the debate stage because it obviously gets co-option, so the link automatically turns here. The BIFO and the RC semiotic capitalism was I literally just answered that before the argument above. The fatalism DA does not make any sense because obviously the advocacy doesn't work, and because it doesn't solve for fatalism of a station because of co-option. The link is really simple in this debate. It is co-option. The thesis of that link is dropped. That trues any type of energy that they can solve for solvency, and that has been clear since the 1NC. Like, I genuinely don't know how they could get out of this.
affirmative for NAFRA. From the inquiry to the Asian hermeneutics to start liberal humanism as a method, the tweet is functionally conceded the equivalent of plain text in a vacuum and a policy round, i.e. the links to the money explanation of an NAFRA are relevant since they only get links to an NAFRA as a method in a vacuum, which definitely takes out the links, which is sufficient to zero extend the role of the judge. Dropping this ends around. Maximize the Asian energy. Asian energy with the academic space of the debate are key to fight back against anti-Asian laws given this drop pressing uniqueness in 3 straight shoots COVID. Any crimes sway heavy, only putting Apple as agents to give the benefits to debate, which turns their offenses. Only that can solve capitalism by rejuvenating social energy. That will be on the care. Remember, this auto wins us the debate. You have to vote AF on try or die. Woodward might have explained how our method could be worse for Asian energy, but did not explain how the old generates any of it, so it's try or die. At any risk that we generate Asian energy for Asian students to fight capitalism in the first place. Stupid idiot. They dropped the voting issue. The money explicitly said that the Twinsies' presumption that, quote, speech is not resistance, end quote, is violent to people with disabilities and people facing structural violence who do not have any other option to resist besides speech. They pathologize those forms of their expression, say that they are not meaningful just because they do not align with Woodward's presumption organization drops. There's zero way out. You have to vote on this, especially because I'm recording too. K proper. Woodward is totally lost. There's zero link to the K because the entire 1C was an affirmation of opacity and incoherency. This is our link to an argument. Read all of the 1C evidence. They explicitly endorse the incoherency of cyber products and the words exploded into disarray with zero meaning. This link turns the K express that only the after resistance committed capitalists that attempts to co-opt resistance co-option was not even close to jumped in the 1ER. I don't know what 1ER they listened to, but the 1ER method is literally not understandable to Western metaphysics. It's just seen as a random Asian dudes saying incoherent words that mean nothing in the 1ER. So obviously capitalism and corporations do not give a fuck, which capitalism does not see as a threat to bad. That means permutation to both solid the access net benefit of white countergazing that the pig and the old cannot access. The permutation says that Asian sabers can dip in and out of visibility to avoid buildings can remain indecipherable and protect their methods. Boy populace should not be given the same luxury. Total incoherency is bad because they said that the power boys can get excited should remain unmappable, which shields them from accountability, which is a disadvantage to the alternative. Those white supremacists must remain visible to Asians so that they can countergaze to tactically anticipate and avoid violence. Total refusal of transparency obscures responsibility. Whites who use the racial slurs will hide behind opacity and anonymity, which ensures racial terror. This zero to pick because we think that some legibility is good, as explained above, which is totally dropped in the Twitter. There's only Twitter answer. It's quite literally just whining about quote. We don't know who the white people countergazing in debate are, which flips both ways in its terminal defense to that benefit. Since nobody in here knows who is co-opting the 1C in debate, unless you can explain how the reading of the 1C causes capitalist people to co-opt their stuff, then that somehow causes all of capitalism. You cannot vote negative since we have offense at the level of the economy that makes it try or die affirmative. The legibility explanation of our poems link is zero. They dropped out only voting AF endorses our method. Voting AF only endorses our method. Nothing else, which is plain text and a vacuum kind of stuff explained above. So none of that is tied into the link to begin. Regardless, they linked back to bottom with the Twitter literally explained the alt is resisting calculation, which proves that we do not link or that they do as well. So vote AF on presumption. This means this puts Woodward in a massive double line. Either our method is definitely compatible because the 1C affirmed inquiry to the perm cells, or if the explanation after the method in the 1C was enough to link and somehow cause all of capitalism, then the 8-minute long twin T and twin R certainly link just as hard back since they've explained what the K is and they have zero bright line. Like seriously, what are we doing here? The twin R literally said the words, quote, I will explain the old here, end quote. Then proceeded to explain why stupidity and not explaining is good, which is the exact same thing that the 1C did. So the perm is obviously try or die because the link is just zero. I'm going to extend the fatalism to here. Dropped again in the twin R. Dropping uniqueness means that they do not get their links because there's no uniqueness. Resistance to debate is terminally inevitable. The novelty of the 1C actively contributes to an archive of performance debate that serves as a training ground for activists to refine strategies for minorities to find refuge in activist spaces. Even if the economy now is violent, critique is the potential to reconfigure and subvert the economy from within. So try or die flips affirmative. That's condo and Valverde. Their assertion, their theorization is violent for people of color use the economy to theorize community adult erases Asians and academy's weaponization of the university to produce alternative pedagogy which sees the university as racist, which they don't all actually abolish the university to create the means for white supremacy operations. Done. A minute.
You can say they dropped our empirics of like the French Revolution.
They dropped their empirics of the French Revolution.
Where critique and like building ideas and a concrete solution.
Building concrete solutions.
Like actually resulted in.
In solvency. I don't think we need anything else. Like, the K is literally just zero. They also dropped the vote issue. Get away.
countervailing explanation of decay doesn't link to intelligibility bad. The app also wins that the neg only gets links to the method, which is like, you're kind of right, you're right that there's no like real final bright line, I guess, between like method and non-method portions of the 1AC, but I feel somewhat comfortable delineating like their big explanation of how the world works from like their pretty targeted method portion where they're like, we endorse being incoherent and just saying random stuff. Given that like I disregard the links to the coherent portions of the 1AC, which don't really seem to be about their strategy but are kind of just like informational, it seems like there's only risk of a link turn in my eyes. But any questions?
Yeah. So you weren't like, so you definitely thought the perfcon thing was like real with the explaining the all obviously means it's intelligible.
I mean, like I wouldn't have couched it as perfcon. I don't think it's theoretical.
I mean,
but yeah,
contradiction.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand how decay doesn't link to itself. Like, by the, as in the 1AR and the 2AR, like they're couching their method as like Asian debaters just say things that mean literally nothing. Like they just say incoherent strings of words, and they say that upsets capitalism in the same way that you're saying stupidity does. And like if the mere fact that they've made other factual claims in the 1AC that aren't directly tied to their strategy is enough to link, then it seems like all the parts in the K where you're like capitalism absorbs information, co-option, like I don't know what, like why is all that not the same type of thing? Or like why doesn't it link to the same level?
Okay. I'm good.
Did like the white counter teasing thing make sense?
I thought it made sense.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously didn't think about it too much, but if I had to, I think it was explained well.
Okay, and then do you have any other comments about like general ad strategy approaching this K or like in general?
I don't know. I'm always, I like kind of what you were doing, but maybe to like maybe even a little harder. Like all the strategy against like co-option Ks always seems like just pressing on like what does co-option mean? Who co-opts it? What's the impact of that co-option? Because I mean, I was kind of following all that. Like, yeah, like I'm kind of agreeing with the app. I have no idea. Like how does voting app lead to co-option? Like how does it get co-opted? Like I have kind of like a tagline, like kind of buzzwordy explanation a little bit. Like I get like the shell of an argument, but I really don't have like a warrant throughout the debate for like voting app allows these people to like take the app's messaging and make more capitalism.
You might not have thought about this. Did you think that there was a sufficient or coherent link to the essentialism debate? They just tested it out there.
Like knee-jerk answer, yes. I'll be honest, I didn't go through and like reread all the cards that they read. Like, it seems like on face value there's some link to like, the app references Chineseness in kind of a vague way, and like maybe edges into the territory of like assuming that there's kind of a universal Chinese experience or Asian experience in debate. But yeah, like if that's the whole 2 and R, winning links to that type of thing, I think is kind of tricky because like I mean yeah, they have tons of answers, and like it's usually not it's usually not super clear or easy, I think, to win that they're like harmfully generalizing Asian people, especially if they're going for the whole strategy of like the language of Asianness isn't even something that like we pick, like, you know, it's getting imposed by fucking colonizers.
No, we're good, so.
Okay.
Alright, sweet.
Thank you, Sean.
Good, thanks for
Good luck
that.
on your next one.